views and opinions expressed in this program are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect the views of BronxNet or the program underwriters.
And hello, everyone, and welcome to Open, the one and only show that opens the Bronx and the rest of the world right to you. I'm your host, Daren Jaime. Today, we'll update you on what's happening in the Bronx as well as across New York City and the world. Coming up on today's show, we talk about flu vaccines. Yes, an organization is actually launching a flu vaccine campaign right here in the borough of the Bronx. We will introduce you to them. Also, we'll discuss the initiatives Amida Care is taking to help end the HIV/AIDS epidemic here in our area. And then a little bit later on, we'll speak to the founding and lead pastor of Real Life Church on how they serve and give back to the Hunts Point community. This after their church was broken into. And then later on, we'll talk to an organization providing meals to neighbors living with severe and chronic illnesses during the COVID-19 crisis. And finally, we'll learn about New York Care's COVID-19 relief efforts and the changes that are being made to this year's coat drive. So stay tuned because all this and much more is heading your way. Right now, we're officially open. And hello, everyone, and welcome to Open. I am Daren Jaime, and today is Wednesday, December 9th, and you're watching Open, a live program that brings the Bronx and New York City straight to you. We also encourage you to watch us on our social media channels, BronxNet TV, and then we also welcome our viewers who are watching Open on MNN, as Open is broadcast on Manhattan Neighborhood Network simultaneously. We thank you for watching, and make sure to stay connected to us right here at BronxNet TV on our social media platforms. Well, a lot has gone on in New York City and our borough throughout the course of the past week. We'll take you through a few of those things with our Bronx updates. First off, we start with coronavirus news. New York City Mayor Bill de Blasio announcing that New York City will receive 465,000 doses of the vaccine in the city by the end of December. The city expects to receive roughly 254,000 of the Pfizer version by December 15th, and then a shipment of the Moderna version of the vaccine expected to reach by December 22nd, with roughly 211,000 doses. The New York City Health Commissioner Dave Chosky stated on Twitter, quote, "Our first priority includes healthcare workers, those who cared for us at the worst moments of the pandemic and who we continue to depend on now as cases rise. We'll continue to prioritize the people most at risk, including residents and staff of nursing homes," end quote. In other news, food pantries are growing out of supplies as they continue to service the needs of people for food. Our BronxNet reporter, Jericho Tran, brings us the story about how organizations are coping.
Okay, guys. You guys got to get here early next week.
Bronxites turning away empty bags and carts in hand after traveling to the Church of God Prophecy to get food from their weekly food pantry.
When we started, it was 150. And we were also giving out anywhere from 30 to 40 produce bags. But now with the pandemic going on, they're not giving us as much as they used to.
Workers for Boom Health handed out 95 bags of groceries and 25 produce boxes before they ran out. Robert Quinones, a worker for Boom Health, tells us that in previous years, they had more than enough food to feed the community. However, as the need for food increased during the pandemic, they are starting to run out faster.
Because even with the 150, we're here between 11 and 1, and by 12:30, we're gone. Even when we have the full amount. of groceries and produce. It's within 45 minutes, an hour and 50 minutes is gone.
Each bag is filled with cereal, milk, rice, beans, and other food, enough for 3 days. Pastor of the Church of God Prophecy, Earl McKay, has been holding this food pantry for years and tells us some weeks the line for food stretches around the block.
It's just overwhelming. Oftentimes they run out of stuff. So there are more and more people from the community coming.
In previous years, residents would collect their food inside the church. However, due to COVID-19 restrictions, they now wait outside. But they don't seem to mind the wait.
They're grateful. People actually stop by to tell us thanks and, ask when again we're going to do that. So people are really, really grateful.
Now, the Boom Health truck will be here each Tuesday from 11 to 1 to serve Bronx residents in need of food. Reporting for BronxNet, Jericho Tran.
And thank you, Jericho. That's all the time we have for our Bronx updates. We encourage you to stay with us. We've got more open coming up right after this. In communities where disparities in the healthcare system and mistrust are high, less than half of the African American and Latinx population in the Bronx currently have received the flu shot. Statistics show between 2015 and 2018, New York City residents contracted the flu 5 times higher than other populations. Now, along with the COVID-19 pandemic, a severe flu season could be devastating to Bronx residents, many of whom have underlying health conditions. Recently, Bronx Reach, the Institute for Family Health, launched a Bronx Flu Fighters campaign to increase flu vaccination rates here in our borough. Joining us now to share more details of the program is the program manager of flu vaccine program at Bronx Health Reach, the Institute for Family Health, Byrne-Zaaloff, and also the pastor of the Church of God of Prophecy, Bishop Earl McKay. And we welcome you both to the show.
Thank you for having us.
And Mariah, I'll start with you. I'll ask the question about participation. I guess when we look at the borough of the Bronx, maybe not as good a participation rate. I know that's part of why you're really going front and center with this campaign.
We are finding that the numbers aren't where they should be, as much as they have increased slightly this year. So the aim of this campaign is really to make sure, especially in the Bronx, that those numbers go up during the month of December. So we are doing a number of things at once. We are working on promoting the importance of the flu vaccine, listening to and addressing concerns about the flu vaccine. There's a lot of hesitancy about getting the flu vaccine, offering those flu vaccines, and then providing community outreach support so that people will work with leaders in the community who want to talk about the flu vaccine and the flu and educate the community. So it's really a grassroots effort, working with churches, working with community centers, working with senior centers and having people who are voices in the community share that information, so that because those personal stories are really what, and personal attention is really what helps people make that decision. It's a choice, getting the flu shot, but the more people that get the flu shot, the more people that are protected. It's really important right now.
You talk about one of those leaders. Bishop McKay is one of those leaders and who's opening his doors and also participating in this. Bishop McKay, what's the message that you give to congregation and community about the flu vaccine, given the fact right now that we know what's going on with the COVID vaccine and a lot of skepticism? And let's be honest, particularly in communities of color, how do you address the issue of getting people aware of the flu vaccine and not just aware of it, but actually taking it?
Well, I think the convergence of the virus and the flu season makes it so vitally important. Really appreciate Mariah reaching out to me, asking me to participate in this here. I got the flu vaccine for the first time. Of course, I felt I was healthy and it wasn't really necessary, but with convergence of the both, I found it necessary. And of course, our people are reluctant. We were kind of surprised when we first started, reach out to folks, recognize they did not want to participate. And we have to really, and education is very important. So I appreciate Bronx Health Reach and this education aspect of it, segment, which we will participate in going forward. So yes, it's not a problem, but we're getting the word out.
Yeah. Mariah, I know that you're going to a few churches. And so I know that Tuesday, December the 8th, of course, which was just yesterday, the New Covenant Christian Ministries. But coming up on Thursday, you've got the Tremont United Methodist Church. And then on Thursday, December 17th, Walker Memorial Baptist Church. And I know that you're targeting places where, you can get a groundswell of community support. What have you heard from the community with boots on the ground?
I think that they're very enthusiastic about having the flu shot available in their community. They seem very grateful. We've had a lot of walk-ins, and I keep getting more calls about it. So there have been mosques that have contacted me, senior centers. There's a lot of interest in making sure that people are covered, people are protected.
And while I got you, talk to me about the benefit of this, right? Because so many people have these misconceptions. There's stereotypes out there. They're concerned with the flu vaccine. But please, if you can, as best as you can, why don't we debunk a couple of these things with regards to the flu vaccine and the importance of it?
It's really important to get the flu vaccine because it protects you from 3 to 4 different viruses of the flu, and protects you from illness. It protects you from, it reduces your risk of hospitalization. And also, it's not just about protecting our own bodies, it's also about the community. I mean, if COVID has taught us anything, it's that it's really important to be aware of, your impact on other people. So, even if you're healthy, you can still have no outward signs of the flu and be carrying the flu and infecting other people, especially people who are high risk, such as young children, older adults, pregnant women, people with heart disease, lung disease, diabetes, obesity. I mean, there's so many people who could be at high risk for complications of the flu. So it's really important to protect everybody.
Yeah. And Bishop, you mentioned that this is the first time that you actually got the flu vaccine. What was the difference maker for you? Was it the fact that Corona was out there? Was it the fact that you had more information about the flu vaccine? What was the determining factor for you?
The determining factor is Corona. Indeed. Of course, I not that I wasn't aware that I needed it. I just felt I was healthy, but Corona complicates matters. And this gives me an impetus now to be more vocal. As a pastor, I'm a shepherd, and so we care for body and soul. And so definitely I will use my experience and share it forward.
Yeah. So Mariah, how do people get more information with regards to this flu vaccine? Where do they get connected to know where to go?
So you can share my email address and phone number, work phone number, 212-633-0800, extension 1287. And you can share my email address. We can provide you with support by helping you set up host a vaccination event. We're working with Walgreens to set those up. They're providing the vaccinations for basically at low cost or free. We can also work with you to provide education or share resources or teach somebody in your community to be a leader, to talk about the flu and the flu vaccine. And of course, nyc.gov flu is another great resource where they have a listing of, I think it's a map where you can look up the location closest to you.
Yeah. And Bishop, really quickly before we go, just the importance for you as the church being a partner. What does it mean for the church as a partner for this very important cause?
Well, I think it's vital. The church is, because of the needs in our community, because of the fear, the doubts, I think it's vital that we join with this cause, join with this effort. We appreciate all that Bronx Outreach is doing around health issues in our community, and this is just one more effort that I'm pleased to be a part of.
Well, Bishop Moria, thank you so much for being with us on the show. We hope that more Bronx residents actually take part in this flu vaccination. Very important during a time like this with Corona very rampant and also the flu as well. And we've lost a lot of good people already. Don't lead to get anybody more sick, more infected during this time. Thank you so much for all your great work.
Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you.
All righty. Well, we want you to stay with us. Guess what? We do have more to go here on Open. We got more show. We'll return right after this.
Who's most at risk for coronavirus? People over 65, people with underlying medical conditions like heart disease, chronic lung disease, asthma, diabetes, people undergoing cancer treatment, and people with weakened immune systems. What should you do if you or a loved one is at higher risk? Avoid close contact with people, avoid crowds, stay home if you can, wash your hands frequently. Learn more ways to protect yourself and others at coronavirus.gov.
When taking public transportation, don't touch your phone. Carry hand sanitizer and use it immediately upon leaving the bus or train. Avoid touching your face. If someone is coughing or sneezing, move away. Wash your hands with soap and water as soon as possible. Limit contact with poles. If possible, avoid rush hour. Don't eat or drink on public transportation. Keep your bag off the floor or other surfaces. Avoid directly touching turnstiles. Stay up to date with the latest from your local health department and CDC.
And welcome back to the show. Amida Care Incorporated is a not-for-profit health plan that actually specializes in providing comprehensive health coverage and coordinated care to New Yorkers with complex conditions. This includes HIV and behavioral health disorders and people who are of transgender experience or actually homeless. Amida Care's innovative model of care has yielded impressive health outcomes that have improved the quality of health care delivery and have also helped members get and stay healthy and produce significant cost savings. And the big question is, how is the health plan's initiatives to help end, I should say, the HIV and AIDS epidemic? And here to share a little bit more about this is the president and CEO of Amida Care, Doug Wirth. And Doug, good to have you.
Thanks, Daren. I'm really happy to be with you this morning.
Well, it's a good topic to talk about because when we talk about a lot of the challenges in New York State, we know that HIV and AIDS, that is one that the governor has tackled head on. And he wants to end the spread of HIV and AIDS, and he's put an expiration date on it. Talk to us a little bit about the work that you're doing to work alongside the governor and the state in trying to mitigate HIV and AIDS.
Thanks, Daren. I mean, it's exciting that New York is still on track to be the first state in the nation to end the HIV epidemic. And we continue to make progress, steady progress, year after year. In 2019, we saw another 5% decrease in the number of new HIV infections in the state over the same period the year before. But because of COVID-19 and other factors, I think we're unlikely to hit our goal of ending the epidemic by the end of this year. And that's no reason to slow down our progress.
Right. Keep the work going, right? And I know the work goes right there with Amida. For people who don't know about Amida, give us a little bit of the background of the work that you do and the people that you service.
Yeah, so, we are a not-for-profit safety net plan. So that means, we're sponsored by community providers. And what the work we do is really to make sure that our members get care. We've even knock on doors and call people if folks aren't getting care or not filling their medications, whether that's an HIV medication and a mental health for depression or anxiety, or getting treatment for addiction disorders. So we're experts at partnering with our members, finding a provider, getting the medications that they need to be well so that they can get about the business of living their lives.
So with COVID-19 obviously impacting a lot of organizations, you talked about even the work that's going on statewide and how that number, or I should say that projection expiration may have to be pushed back a little bit. How has it impacted the work that you guys do?
Well, I think COVID-19 has disrupted every aspect of the healthcare system, from HIV testing, treatment, and prevention work. So, for example, the New York City sexual health and wellness centers, they remain closed due to COVID restrictions. The kind of crucial outreach that providers and our plan does in bars and nightclubs and out on the street even has ground to a complete halt. I mean, overall, fewer people are going to see their doctor out of fear of being exposed to COVID. And then there's more people who've lost their jobs. And so now they might be uninsured and unable to seek out healthcare. So COVID is making ending the HIV epidemic in New York all that much harder.
Yeah. Here in the borough of the Bronx, a lot of concern. Talk to us about the progress that's being made with HIV and AIDS. We knew for one time that the numbers were rising, but we also knew that there was some great work being done. Talk to us about your progress and what are you finding here in the borough?
Well, the Bronx continues to be disproportionately impacted by the HIV epidemic. About 29% of New Yorkers with diagnosed HIV live in the borough. I guess in 2019, over 460 additional people who live in the Bronx were diagnosed as HIV positive, actually more than any other borough in the city. And I think that there are some concrete steps that we take to improve the situation. We know about getting HIV tests. So everyone who's sexually active ought to be having an HIV test and getting tested regularly. We also want people to get and stay connected to a healthcare provider. And for people who are HIV negative, but maybe placed at elevated risk for becoming HIV positive, we need to start having sexual health conversations that include PrEP. And PrEP is a medication that's more than 99% effective at keeping people HIV negative, stay HIV negative when they take the medication on a daily basis.
Before we go, I want to get an opportunity for you to be able to talk about the stereotypes, because we know that sometimes it was hard for those who work with boots on the ground to be able to deal because of stereotypes associated with HIV and AIDS. Very briefly, do you feel as though that a lot of traction has been made in debunking some of these stereotypes so you could actually get the work done?
Yeah, thank you, Daren. Stigma continues to be an issue, right? So, one of the things that I'm hoping that your listeners will start conversations about sexual health. I mean, everyone would ideally like to have a positive, healthy, a good sexual life. So why don't we have sexual health conversations about staying healthy, around having good sexual health experience? And for people, particularly young people, young gay and bisexual, young men of color, transgender people, but more broadly, women of color, Black and Latinas are much more at risk for HIV. And so I think if we could start talking about sex and sexual health and integrating conversations about PrEP, this life-changing medication that can help everyone stay HIV negative, we actually can impact what's going on in the Bronx and end the epidemic there as well.
Well, Doug, thank you for the work that you guys are doing. Obviously, still much work to do. And with COVID-19 pushing things back, I know it hasn't halted you, but continue the great work.
We'll keep going. Thanks, Daren.
All right, Doug Wirth here with us. And I want to let you know, if you want more information, you can visit the website at amidacareny.org. Again, amidacareny.org. We encourage you to stay with us. We still do have more show coming up. We'll be right back right after this.
We know that people are dealing with the health crisis, but there's also a lot of food insecurity.
We're giving out healthy food options, and that's what's key here.
If you're a senior, you have a disability, they'll actually deliver meals to you.
The residents are anxious, they're worried, they're scared, they want to be tested.
When things were happening in our community and we couldn't get the help.
There's almost a presumption of criminality that attaches to your skin color.
The site will prioritize those who are at highest risk in the population.
If you feel symptoms and you'd like to visit one of these COVID-19 testing sites here in the Bronx, you may call the State Health Department's hotline.
Important to note about this site is no reservations are needed. This is a walk-in clinic.
A lot of us are out of work and looking for something to do.
We have the machinery and the skills to make large scales of these masks and gowns.
Take care of your people. It's going to go way further than we actually can understand.
Right now, employees like myself are just adjusting to the new reality.
Reporting from Bronx, this is Natasha.
And thank you for staying with us. Our next guest has made a huge impact in serving the residents of the Hunts Point community. This includes feeding over 23,000 people in the South Bronx in New York City. Recently, their church was broken into and several items were stolen during these difficult and challenging times. The question is, how can the community actually come together and assist them? Joining us now to share a little bit more is the founding and lead pastor of Real Life Church and the founder and president of the Prodigal Center, Reggie Stutzman. And thank you so much for being with us, Reggie.
Thank you. What an honor. Thank you so much, Daren.
I should say Pastor Reggie. So thank you. But no, listen, I wanted to bring you here to share a little bit about what was going on with you guys. I know obviously you had some great work that you were doing, and that was kind of like impacted by a break-in. But first, let's talk a little bit about the ministry and the things that you're doing in the community. And I know one of those things is making sure that people are actually being fed.
Thank you. Yeah. The Prodigal Center is our nonprofit organization that we formed in 2015 as a pantry and clothing distribution in Hunts Point. And pre-COVID, it was maybe 300 to 400 people a week, just trying to find the need, fill the need that's here in the community. And as soon as COVID hit, of course, our numbers started rising, where we were seeing over 900 people a week. And then, as you had mentioned, since January of this year, actually over 24,000 people have been receiving free food from the Prodigal Center at 709 Tiffany, right here in Hunts Point every Tuesday from 11 to 2. So we haven't stopped, and the need obviously keeps rising. And we don't know what's ahead of us. But we're here to serve the Hunts Point community and even beyond. It's been amazing to even see people hear about us. And we've had people from Manhattan, from Brooklyn, will come all the way to the South Bronx to get the things that we're providing.
Yeah. And recently, as I said in the lead, that your church actually experienced a break-in. Many items actually taken. Talk to us and walk us through the break-in. And how'd you find out?
Well, our situation is really different from really any other traditional church. We were meeting in another venue for over 5 years. We're just an 11-year-old church, and so we're a mobile church. We've never had our own building. We've tried over the last 11 years to get into different facilities, and from a rec center to other venue. And so we were in one, and because of COVID, we weren't able to return indefinitely. And so I was doing church online like a lot of people are, and still, having to grapple with all of that. And then there's a home, a two-family home that's right around the corner from the Prodigal Center that the owner came to me, and we were just talking, and I told him our dilemma of having church. And so I asked if we would be able to have church outside. And so he said, sure, no problem. And we actually redid the whole backyard, as restaurant owners have had, all this outdoor dining built. We found a local restaurant that had outdoor dining built for them. And so we had a whole platform built over the backyard of this house. And then we were storing all of our church equipment, sound equipment, microphones, stands, even my pulpit, in this house. And then last Sunday, we came to set up. It was going to be a beautiful day to have church outside. And so we went to, sweep out the back and put the chairs up and everything, and then discovered that someone had broken into the house where all of our things were stored, and stole everything, even my pulpit, and even our offering buckets with our church logo on it. So, it was just one of those things that was like, why would anybody even take a pulpit? But, we've been just trying to stay present in our community and really think out of the box with having church outside. And then all of our equipment is stolen. So,
yeah. About how much damage was, in terms of financial, how much was the damage for what was stolen from you?
It wasn't a lot, and I don't want to be overwhelmed by it or even take advantage of the situation. It probably was about $2,000 worth of equipment. It was just a mobile, sound system and microphones and so forth. And so it's just, it's more of a heart issue that someone would come in and take all of our equipment when we have been serving the community, having church outside for anyone who wants to come, and then someone would actually cut through, the chain that we had over the gate, break through into the house, and take all these things. So, I mean, the loss wasn't that great, but it's still a loss, and it's still heartbreaking that someone would do this to a church.
How do you, how's the morale, I should say, of your church family, given the fact that they have been known for serving, but then yet and still you find yourself on the other end of criminal vandalism?
Well, to be honest, it has amped us up. It has gotten us even more excited, because ministry, as you know, Pastor Daren, we're on the front line, and there are things that we're wrestling with that aren't flesh and blood. And when we know that things like this happen, we know that we have riled somebody up. And so that only amps us up and gets us more excited that we're doing the right thing. And we're just praying that God would really speak to the heart of that individual or people involved, and that they would really feel, the weight of what they did. And but to be honest, we feel more excited to stay in the fight in Hunts Point, keep doing what we're doing, and God will provide, and not only provide a sound system, but we're believing that through this, we'll have our own building provided. We'll have beyond what has been lost to be recovered. So we're hoping that we'll even get a building in Hunts Point, and our ministry will become even more impactful for the community.
For people who want to assist your church and the community in a time like this, particularly after that, devastating break-in, talk to us about how people could help. And if they do want to send donations, what can they do?
Yeah, thank you. So because the church and the Prodigal Center are two separate entities, people can visit the church's website, which is reallifechurchnyc.com, and they can click on the giving tab, and that'll send them to our giving link, and that'll help the church recoup what we've lost. And then if people would like to just see the work that we're doing through the Prodigal Center, feeding over 3,000 people every month, and probably climbing, as we know that flu season and COVID numbers are rising. And if they want to volunteer, or they want to donate funds or non-perishable foods, they can go to The Prodigal, and that's PRODIGAL, theprodigalcenter.org, and find out more information about that.
All righty. Pastor Reggie, we got to leave it there, but our thoughts and prayers are with you and your congregation. I believe that things will turn around for good in the end. Keep up what you're doing.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Really appreciate it.
All righty, Pastor Reggie Stutzman. Listen, I want you to know, if you want more information about the organization, you can visit the Facebook page at the Prodigal Center, and also Real Life Church Bronx. We encourage you, don't go anywhere. We've got more open. We'll return right after this.
live in the Northeast Bronx? If you live inside this blue line on the map, then you can vote in the special election to replace expelled City Council member Andy King. Election day is December 22, but the polls are open as early as December 12th at certain hours. By voting, you get to choose District 12's next representative in the City Council. To instantly find your polling place and voting hours, go to findmypollsite.vote.nyc. That's findmypollsite.vote.nyc. Apply for absentee ballot by December 15th by mail.
And welcome back. God's Love We Deliver cooks and home delivers nutritious, medically tailored meals for people too sick to shop or able to cook for themselves. They also provide illness-specific nutrition education and counseling to clients, families, care providers, and also other service organizations. Now, they work with 16,000 volunteers each year and cook and deliver more than 7,000 meals each weekday. The question is, what initiatives has the program taken to adapt and provide their services during COVID-19 and more particularly during this upcoming holiday season? Joining us now to share a little bit more is the Communications Associate at God's Love We Deliver, Natasha Bunzl, and thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you very much, Daren.
Thank you. And listen, thank you for the great work that you're doing. Obviously, in a time like this, we've got COVID-19, we've got a pandemic. We've got flu season that's actually on the rise as well. Talk to us a little bit about the nutritious meals that you're actually able to deliver and how you're able to actually perform this all in the midst of a pandemic.
Sure. So at the center of what we do is the belief that food is medicine and food is love. And when someone is living with a serious illness, if we can take the provision of meals and the provision of healthy, healing meals off of their to-do list and provide them, that's a really amazing and important service. So what we do is each client who comes to us living with a serious illness speaks to a registered dietitian nutritionist and receives a meal plan that's specifically targeted to address their needs as far as their treatment and their medication and their life. And we home deliver those meals, which are all prepared in our kitchen in Soho. And so each of our meals is medically tailored, as I mentioned, and full of love, cooked by our chefs and by volunteers. And they arrive frozen so our clients can choose when they want to eat them, and everything is free to our clients. As far as working during the pandemic, as I'm sure you can imagine, the need for our services has skyrocketed. We are producing 30% more meals. We have brought on thousands of new clients to our program. So we're now cooking and home delivering 10,000 meals each day. And operationally, this has been a challenge during a pandemic. We have had to reduce the number of volunteers we have in our kitchen so that we can maintain social distancing. Much of our staff is working from home, like myself. And we also have instituted, of course, contactless deliveries. So while we know it's really important to our clients to have the interaction with our drivers, we now step 6 feet away from the door and, of course, masked from that distance. But we still have that personal touch, even though it happens at this safe, distanced way now.
And one of the things that really struck me about the work that you guys do is that you were able to deliver and cook 1.9 million meals this year alone.
So this year it will actually be 2.5 million meals.
Wow.
Yeah. So and this growth is definitely a result of the coronavirus pandemic and the extremely increased need across our city for medically tailored meals for people who are living with serious illness, who need to know that their food is safe for them to consume and will help them in their health journey.
And when we talk about the health journey, obviously food, as you said, is medicine. Food is love, and sharing that love is important, particularly during the holiday season. Give us a little bit about your work that's going to happen during the holidays, because we know that's a time when a lot of people ramp up need and have an increase of, in need for food services. What are you guys doing during the holidays?
Great. So actually, this is by far the busiest time of the year for us, starting with Thanksgiving, where we send each of our clients a full Thanksgiving feast. So turkey, stuffing, all of the sides, cranberry sauce that we make from scratch. And we also send each of our clients an additional guest meal to share with a loved one. And this is in addition to the fact that we send each of our clients meals for their children as well year round, and meals for any senior caregivers. So we really increase how many meals we're producing. We sent out 10,000 Thanksgiving meals, And as soon as we take a little bit of a nap after Thanksgiving, everything sort of ramps up again to do exactly the same thing for our winter feast. So our menu changes. Our meat entree is a beef and cherry entree, and we have a vegetarian mushroom casserole. And this year we're starting with a entirely New York State, partially organic soup, which is going to be celery root and cauliflower. And it ends with a very much appreciated holiday cookie. And we send that again to each of our clients, to their family unit, and an additional feast so that they can share the holidays with a loved one, because no one should spend the holidays alone. And we really, one of our real core tenets is that we want our clients to feel like they're a part of a whole New York community. And that's something that we really hold near and dear during the holidays.
Amazing. And when we talk about the holiday season, obviously, a lot of this work gets done with volunteers. You've got an amazing volunteer corps, but for somebody that's watching right now and saying, listen, I'd love to be of assistance. I'm in that season where I want to give back. How's a person able to give and participate as a volunteer?
Great. So we could not do what we do without the help of thousands of volunteers every year, 17,000 volunteers. And our winter feast efforts will be done with the help of 1,000 volunteers. So anyone living in New York above the age of 18 can go to our website and click on the volunteer link and sign up to come in. We have help from volunteers in every single department. Volunteers in the kitchen help us cook our meals. Volunteers help our drivers by helping deliver meals. We also have volunteer drivers who pick up meals with their own cars, or walking deliveries who go visit our clients themselves. And of course, in our offices, we have volunteers as well. So it's really the lifeblood of the organization, our connection with volunteers, and anyone who can come in from wherever. If you're feeling healthy and up for it, we would love your help. And it's really joining an incredible community to become a volunteer at God's Love We Deliver.
Yeah. How do you anticipate 2021 playing out, given the fact that we're in the middle of almost the second virus? Hopefully a vaccine is on the way, but yet and still, when it comes to the issue of food, that's an issue that does not go away.
That's very true. And I think particularly the people that we serve being amongst the most vulnerable in our society, and that they live with serious illnesses, which mean that they can't shop or cook for themselves. The need for God's Love We Deliver, unfortunately, will never, ever go away. So we're working with a nationwide coalition called the Food is Medicine Coalition to expand access to medically tailored meals across the country. We really believe that food is an integral part of a healthcare system. And so that's what we're working to do, to expand access to medically tailored meals for people living with serious illness. Because if you're not eating the right food, you cannot take your medication, you cannot keep up the strength to be able to sustain treatment or recovery. So we know that this is an essential service right now during the pandemic, but also looking forward into the future.
It's amazing to think with 8 million people in New York City, you're going to do about 2.5 million meals that are going to be cooked and delivered. That's amazing. And Natasha, thank you for the work that you guys are doing at God's Love We Deliver. And certainly I'll do my best to get people connected.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate it. And I just want to say, if anyone watching this, they themselves or someone that they know is living with a serious illness and too sick to shop or cook for themselves, you can go to our website and click Get Meals. And it's a really simple process, and we'll get you receiving home delivered meals, medically tailored meals, as soon as we hear from you.
All righty. Well, to add on to that, for more information, if you do want to visit them on their website, all you have to do is go to GLWD, which is God's Love We Deliver.org, and follow them on Instagram and Twitter at God's Love NYC. And I'm sure that you can get connected in a very special way. We encourage you, don't go anywhere. We do have more open. We'll be right back coming up after this.
Thanks so much, Daren.
Thank you, Natasha. back and thank you for staying with us. New York Cares is the city's leading volunteer organization, enabling more than 54,000 volunteers a year. The organization has volunteers tutoring children, feeding the hungry, assisting people living with HIV and AIDS, revitalizing gardens, taking homeless children on recreational outings, visiting the elderly, and much more. Since the relief efforts started in March 16th, there are 49,300 volunteer positions, 148,000 hours, and over 29 million meals served. 29,000, I should say. Was it 29? We'll find out in a minute. Joining us to tell us a little bit more is the Director of Immediate Needs and Public Spaces at New York Cares, Heather McGreevy. And Heather, good to have you.
So glad to be here with you.
All right, correct me on the math. Am I at 29 million or 29,000?
You know, every time I hear the number, I really and truly can't believe it. It's 29 million.
Wow.
Yeah, and to give you some perspective, in a normal year, during that time, we normally facilitate about 2.5 million meals. So we've gone from facilitating 2.5 million to 29 million. And, you know, just like your reaction, every time I hear it, I'm like, I can't even believe that has been our experience. But I am really glad that we've been able to do it and make it happen.
Yeah, I wanted to wait to ask you, but then I was like, oh my God, because I saw the number in the beginning and I said, oh, 29,000. I said, oh, maybe my producer had a little typo, but 29 million. But it also goes to show the amount of need here in our city. Talk to us about the need that you're finding, because you have boots on the ground and you see this need firsthand.
We surely do. So we are part of a coalition of organizations, the Volunteer Coordination Task Force with New York City. So we have an agreement with New York City Emergency Management. When a disaster strikes the city, we're responsible for creating a pipeline to manage spontaneous volunteers. We were engaged for 9/11, we were engaged for Hurricane Sandy, and most recently we've been engaged for the COVID response. Anytime you see very high levels of unemployment, you are going to see people needing what we would call emergency food. So if you're not able to, if you don't know where your next meal is coming from, that's what emergency food is. It's making sure that your family can get to what's next, that you have food on your table in your house. And so we anticipated, with all of the closures and the very high level of joblessness, that emergency food was going to rise. We have not seen levels of food insecurity like this, of homelessness like this, since the Great Depression in the 1930s. And so, you know, when you go to a soup kitchen, when you go to a food pantry, I've been doing this work for about 10 years. I have never seen anything like this. It really is truly mind-blowing. And the number of people who have come out and said, I'm going to help, is also truly mind-blowing. It's really, it really uplifts your spirit.
Yeah, and the number I put up there was 54,000 volunteers that you had, maybe more. But talk to us about amassing these volunteers, and particularly during a COVID-19 pandemic, where people are finding the need to be, people are in need, but then you also find people who want to help and assist in the need.
Absolutely. Volunteer management is tricky. If you've ever tried to organize a birthday party, or your family or friends, and you're like, I just need you to show up on time and do this thing, I'm sure you've experienced that. Imagine doing that on a large scale. And that's really what we do. And that's our value to the sector, and it's our value to the city, being able to coordinate people at that scale. So we were one of the first organizations to very rapidly deploy volunteers. As part of our COVID relief efforts, we've engaged 10,000 volunteers on the ground when a lot of other organizations couldn't do that. And that really speaks to how effective our system is. We have an online system, and we have a core of people who are familiar with us and say, we know New York Cares, and we know that this is an organization that is not going to shirk away from the responsibility of this moment, that we're going to figure out how to make this happen and how to do it safely. And that's really what we did. We figured out how we could coordinate people en masse and minimize risk as much as possible. And so we were able to effectively welcome, you know, almost 100 new organizations into our fold during this time.
During this time, I know one of the annual things that you do is a coat drive. And so you've had to make some modifications to this year's coat drive based on COVID-19 and all that's going on. So give us a little bit about how you're handling this year's coat drive and how people could still take part.
You know, Daren, I feel like it's one of the many things that everybody is trying to figure out. How do we operate in this environment? And coat drive is certainly one of those things. So we were not able to operate the warehouse that we normally do. But to us, a coat is not a luxury. All of the struggle that is happening in our city is very real. And going out in 30-degree weather, that's not an option to go out with a coat in New York City. You know, that's crazy. And so we've been able to rally folks and figure out how to get more new coats out into the community. We have also reduced the number of steps that it takes for a coat to get to a person. So before COVID, it used to take 5 steps. So a coat would travel on a journey. It would go to a public collection site. It would go to our warehouse. It would take that journey. And COVID really forced us to get tighter, and it forced us to be more effective and more efficient. And so we now connect coat donors directly to places that will receive those coats. So we've reduced the number of touch points from 5 to 2. And it really, really has been incredible. We're pretty excited about the progress that we've made. So far, we have over 17,000 coats on the ground, and we are looking to continue to hammer at that number in the coming weeks.
Well, Heather, 2020 is coming to a close. Obviously, everyone is setting their sights towards moving towards 2021. Hopefully, the vaccine will be making its way. Hopefully, we can see those numbers begin to dwindle and some light at the end of the tunnel. How do you see things playing out for New York Cares in 2021?
I think it's really important for people to continue to infuse power into the nonprofit sector. New York Cares can't continue to support in these efforts if we don't have the funds and the structure in order to do so. And so I think that that's really, really critical at this time. You know, we are able to continue to support so many different nonprofits because people support us. And as we head into the coming months, that's critical. Making sure that the nonprofit world is stable and can continue to be the backbone of communities, I think is something that is an important message for people to hear. If folks want to know how to help, they can head to newyorkcares.org. We have hundreds of volunteer opportunities available every single week, and folks can donate either a coat or funds to the organization through that website as well.
Heather McGreevy, we got to leave it there, but thank you so much for the work that you're doing over at New York Cares.
Daren, thank you so much for having me and for sharing our message. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Great having you. And listen, I want to tell people for more information, don't forget to visit their website at newyorkcares.org, or you can follow them on social media. Well, we've come to the end of our show today. I want to thank all of our guests for joining us, but most of all, you, the viewer, for tuning in. If you missed any part of today's show, you can always catch the recablecast on Bronx's Channel 67. Optimum, that'll be channel 2133, or anytime on the web at bronxnet.org. If you desire a brand new episode, check out my girl, Rena Valentine. She'll be coming on Friday with arts and entertainment and keeping you open there. Until then, I'm Daren Jaime saying take care, God bless, and most of all, keep this channel wide open.